Hey there, everyone. Ryan Schul here. Thanks for tuning in to another episode on my channel. So, in the project today, I want to talk about how we can create an earnings call transcript analyzer. So, in the finance business, there's earnings calls that corporations do all the time, right? They talk about their successes, if they had challenges, any kind of risk. They assess the risk that the company might face in the upcoming months or next 12 months or whatever the case may be, whatever the horizon that they're uh, looking at right here. So these happen all the time for all these public companies, right? They have the earnings calls and they have all kinds of discussion and analysis. It's actually called management discussion analysis, abbreviated MD&A. So why would we even be interested in looking at these transcripts, right? Because it gives you insight into what the company is doing. You have the main stakeholders in the company, the executive officers, the C-suite, probably the CEO, almost without exception, the CFO, maybe CRO, CTO, CIO. They're going to have a platform to make a speech, right, and talk about what's happened in the past and what's upcoming into the future. So these are real-time executive sentiments. How do we feel? What do we think about the company? We can summarize the calls based on seconds and the tone of the conversation, the feeling of the words that are used. These call transcripts, earnings calls transcripts are crafted very carefully, right? And you have to try to detect any kind of shift in the message over time. Was it positive? Is it mostly neutral? Is it somewhat negative? A lot of these tend to be mostly positive. The company's not going to come out and say, "Oh, like we're going to be flushed down the toilet in the next 6 months." No, they're never going to say that, right? So it's mostly optimistic, mostly positive, but you have to be realistic as an analyst too and say to yourself, is this like too over the top? Is this too much? Are these guys too optimistic? When in reality, the future for this company in the next 6 to 12 months or whatever is not as sunny as they represent, right? So also we can quantify management's confidence and understand the risk and the sentiment, which is the feeling of that risk. We can extract the score from the Q&A sections. There's always a question and answer section for these types of earnings calls. We can look at the sector-wide index sentiment. Like, is this company, if you're looking at the tech sector, how is Apple communicating their earnings? How is Microsoft communicating their earnings? How is Amazon communicating their earnings, right? I think Amazon is not actually a tech company. I think that's more, what would it be, like retail or something like that. Even though it has a huge tech presence, I don't think it's identified as a tech business. But these are things that we can look into and try to understand and unpack and really, really comprehend the meaning and the purpose of these earnings calls, okay? And we can integrate that with other financial news, financial markets, make this scalable up and outwards, right? And then try to automate the way that we capture this data and analyze it and internalize it and digest it and make sense of it, right? So basically, we want to create a foundation component for an AI agent or an investment advisor to understand what is the outcome of these earnings calls for big investors, big corporate entities, BlackRock, Blackstone, any kind of major asset manager wants to understand this. But even the small investor wants to understand these earnings calls too, right? And understand like really what's going on behind the scenes, right? If you work in the accounting area or the finance area, you're going to see the operations, the day-to-day stuff. But if you're an outsider, you really have no clue what's going on other than things like the 10K, the 8K reports, which have to be publicly disclosed to investors, to the general public, right? Any kind of privately held company doesn't have this kind of scrutiny, and they don't have these mandates where they have to disclose this information. But for a public company, you do, right? So let's jump into it. So I have my notes here. Let's say we want to analyze quarterly earnings and call transcripts, and we can look at audio transcripts, we can look at text transcripts. It doesn't matter. In this case, I'm looking at text transcripts. If we had audio, we can convert audio to text and analyze it, or just analyze the audio. If we have text, we can analyze that, or actually convert the text to audio and then do the analysis. We can switch back and forth. It doesn't matter, right? So management tone and confidence, we have to understand that. Any kind of negative sentiment or uncertainty, again, you're not going to see too much, right? They keep it pretty close to the vest. They're not going to say, the company's headed in a downward trajectory. No, they're not going to say that. That would be, professional suicide. Nobody's going to say that. But there are tones, and there should be like full disclosure and should be honesty, right? If the company really doesn't have a rosy forecast, that should be conveyed somehow in the message, either subtly or directly. But again, like even the worst news is going to be withheld, right? So you don't necessarily lie to the investing community, but if you withhold information that could have a meaningful impact on investors' decisions, that could be considered like what is it called? Bearing false witness, right? Or like not representing the truth. So it should be pretty accurate, pretty much full disclosure. And this can have sector-wide sentiment trends. And how do we set up and control this whole process? So let me take you through it right now. So I created a small script in Python right here. Let me run it. Control Enter to kick off the process here. And I'm going to share all this code with you. You'll have everything you need. I'm going to go to this website right here, Motley Fool called Transcripts. So I just found this thing a couple of days ago. This looks like a good resource. There's several. There's Yahoo Finance. There's a bunch of resources out here. This one looks pretty decent, so I focus on this one. So we have earnings transcripts right here, and you have the let me get rid of this thing. I don't know what that is. Some advertising or marketing gimmick. So you have RPM Q4 2025 earnings. Here's Ameriprise, Valero, Provident, Tractor Supply, Bread Financial. That's interesting. I've never even heard of that in my entire life. IMAX. Okay, so you have a bunch of earnings calls, transcripts right there. So what I want to do is go ahead and use this source so I can go ahead and extract information or fetch information. Let me just wait from this website. I'm going to tell the code to click the button a couple of times because we only get about 20 or so transcripts per load. And I'm sure the reason they do this is if they show you everything and you have a slow internet connection. Now, most people nowadays, I think, have a pretty fast internet connection, but there's probably some people out there that have slow connections, and it could take several minutes, maybe who knows how long, 10, 12, 15 minutes for the page to load if they show everything all at once, right? So if you have a fast connection, it's irrelevant, doesn't matter. If you have a slow connection, it matters a lot. They probably do this page load and you have to click and get more information. That's probably intentional for this website, Motley Fool, right? So I guess they're not fools. They know what to do, right? They know how to set this up so it doesn't cause people to wait a long time. So what I want to do is go ahead and click the button, and you can see what the button looks like with the HTML behind the button. So if I go down here, right click and go to inspect, I can see the HTML. I'm going to do some basic screen scraping. I have several videos on my channel about doing this screen scraping. So you go over here and you can see the HTML elements behind the button. So if I click over here, load more, you can see that right here. I put the mouse over that. If I right click again and go inspect, it takes you right to the button. So you just have to look for some details of HTML, maybe the button name, the button class, button click event, load more is the name of the button. It doesn't really matter what it is. You just have to look for some kind of element that lets the code automatically click the button. So I found out that this is argument click. So when I hit that, you can see that the notebook is running. You see the hourglass up in the corner, and I'm going to go ahead and get, what is this, like 5 or 10, 10 pages or 10 click events of the button. So I'm gonna hit the button 10 times, right? From 1 to 10, it's gonna click it 10 times and extract or fetch all the information about all the URLs from this website. So I click the button 10 times, so expand it 10 times. Then if I go over here, right click and go to inspect, I can see what this HTML looks like behind the button. So this is a class, gray text 1100, and there's an href. So an href is an element. You can see the href right here. You see a class, and what else? You can see the name of that link. So this is called Manhattan MAN Q2 2005 earnings call transcript, right? So you want to go in and look for the button click event, click the button, and then look for this combination of text gray. If you look very closely, it's going to be called text gray, and it kind of goes within the range right here. If I click on another one and go to inspect, it takes me to this over here. So I look at text gray, 1100, 1100, again, A class, href. So you look for these patterns. Anything that has a pattern can be exploited, right? Especially in the web-based world or web world or HTML. Anything that has a pattern, you can repeat the pattern over and over. So the thing I'm doing here is clicking the button 10 times, and then I'm looking for this kind of language over here, either date author, gray text 800, and then a gray text 1100, right? So if you look over here, this is the gray 800. That's where we get the date from. So that's the date. And then the click href click link is right here. So again, if I put the mouse over here, click here, you can see there's a gray 800, no, 1100, sorry. 1100 is there. And then there's the gray 800. So again, that's the date. And then I put the mouse over here, and that's the link that we can click. So that's a pattern. You look for the pattern and you exploit it. We need the button click event doing 10 times. We're doing this 10 times to expand the page 10 times. I think there's like I think it's like 20 per page. I forgot what their setup is, 20 or 25 per page. Then once the button is clicked 10 times, then you can go ahead and look for this element, HTML 800, that's the date, and the gray is the link. And then we can go ahead and do the import. So something actually happened here. Timeout error. Let me do this again. I set that up again because this literally was just working. Oh, I did this like 1 or 2 days ago when I set this up. I don't know if it's gremlins on my computer or what, but I always set the code, test it, spend a couple hours on it, and it works. And then I start up the video to do the narrative here, and then sometimes it doesn't work. So it's very bizarre. I'll admit it. If it works, it should work. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. But there's some reason for this. So let's dig in. Let's figure this out. And then sometimes it's kind of just a random thing too. Like, why these things do this, but let's wait this. So let's wait for this process to finish off. But again, that's it. Like, you look for just a couple of things. If there's a button click event, you have to find the HTML behind that and just assign that to this script driver execute. Okay, so everything in here is controlled by Selenium. If you look here, you have a WebDriver for Selenium, import WebDriver, Selenium WebDriver common by, Chrome options, common action support, and all you have to do is just copy this code and then paste it into a new Jupyter notebook, right? Look for some kind of button click event or argument. 0 is number 1, everything is 0 based. So if it's just 0, it could be 1, 2 if you have 2 or 3 buttons. But the first button, in this case, the only button is going to be 0, right? You look for this to get the date, and then you look for this to get the text behind the link. So let me give this a second go. I think this will work because it did work totally fine the other day. I'm not sure why it wouldn't. Not sure why it would work and then not work, but let's see. Give it a chance. We'll get this benefit of the doubt. And then again, we're looking for the date of the author, the title, and the link, and we're going to package those all together. Okay. So here we're creating a dictionary. You can tell by the curly braces and the key value pairs. Here's the key. This is the value. And again, the value is the date of the author, the text link, and then the title link, or the title link, and then the attribute of that link, right? So we have the date, the title, and then the link itself. We take everything, put it into a dictionary, package that dictionary into a list. We do the append onto the list. So square braces means list, curly braces means dictionary. Append all the dictionary items into a list, and then we take everything in that list, convert that to a data frame. So you see three primary data types here. You see the list, the dictionary, and then the data frame. What else do they have in Python? A tuple. You have a tuple. I don't use those very often. Kind of nice, I guess. I mean, I think those are somewhat useless, but I use a lot of dictionaries, lists, and data frames. So everything has been converted into a data frame. We click the button 10 times, and we have 220 records here. So it's probably 20 to 21, maybe 22 records per page, and maybe it deviates a little bit. It could be on or off, right? But here we have the first part of the page, RPM. Remember that at the beginning. Here's the RPM. Let me close this window so it's not too confusing. And if we go back to the top, we'll see RPM. So that was the first, Ameriprise, Valero, Provident, and then Tractor Supply, right? So we have RPM, Ameriprise, Valero, Provident, Tractor Supply. And if we keep going down the list, I'm not going to hunt and peck for this thing, but if you get down to 219, this is zero base. So you start with zero, you have 219, which is really 220. Then you have Rent the Runway, Rent. I had a friend that was a big fan of this. He invested a lot of money and lost his shirt in this thing. I'm not sure how good of investment this thing is, just based on what little I know about it. But anyways, so we have the links over here. If I copy this link, I can copy and paste that, Control C, Control V, copy and paste that into the next section down here. And I'm going to create a script to go screen scrape everything off of this URL. So I'm going to hit this just to set the function. So I have a user-defined function called parse earnings call. And there's several ways to set this up, guys. Okay, you can skin the cat many different ways. I am going to use Mozilla setup here, user agent, headless, or headers. In this case, I'm actually using headers. So this will go almost as a Mozilla browser, like a Firefox Mozilla browser, and go to the website, log into the website or whatever, reference the website, and then start pulling back information. So I want this to be the actual link, the actual URL. I'm parsing. If you look here, Control F, this goes to the URL. The URL is passed from this call process down here into this function. Okay, so we have the function get URL headers equals headers, and we're just going to go ahead and parse everything from that URL, and I want to print it. So let me show you how this works. I picked Rent the Runway. I don't even know what this thing is. My friend lost some money in this thing, but I'm just going to pick it just for the demo here. So I want to see what this is going to do. I'm going to look at the first 1,000 characters from this website right here. And if I go here, we can actually see the website, right? Because this is the full URL. They're giving us all the information. Control Enter, run it, and let's see what this thing looks like. Rent the Runway, okay, pretty much what I would expect right there. Then you have the date, call participants. So you always have the CEO and all these things, right? CFO, so you have two officers. You can have 3, 4, maybe more. You'll have at least 2, most likely, maybe just the CEO. But I would say at least 2, and then 3 or 4 probably max. I don't think they go beyond that. So you have the initial details of the earnings call, the participants, right? The risks. So anything that we need to know about the riskiness of that company is this goes here, and then you get into the call. Okay, so basically they set up the call, put out the number and everything, and they make this public. You can see all the earnings calls from many sources. Yahoo Finance certainly has this. There's many sources that say, hey, the earnings calls can be at this time on this date, and here's the phone number. Okay. So then they get into revenue, gross margin, fulfillment costs, things like this, EBITDA. This is earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization, inventory investing, inventory engagement. So everything relevant to the firm, okay? And the state of the company as well, right? So they're saying, this is what our company is doing. This is any kind of potential risk that we are facing. This is, the state of the business right now. This is what we expect in the next year, or short term, long term. This is the outlook, right? So you have everything right here, and then you have the same thing represented here in text and Python, right? So you have the summary, the takeaways, all this. If I go back to summary over here, it says Rent the Runway delivered record quarter and active subscribers. So if I Control F, Control C, Control V, I should see exactly that, right? Great, and it's right there. Well, it's right in front of me. So Rent the Runway. I don't know why these guys put these words all together. I mean, it's hard enough for me to speak. I can't even say these things. Just runway, run, something like that. Just make it easy for people. So you have exactly the same thing, right? So now with this text imported into our Python Jupyter notebook, we can go ahead and do some analysis on this. So I want to look at full conference call transcript. Okay, so I'm going to Control Enter to run this. I see there's 36 lines and 19,776 characters of text total. Now I want to go ahead and pull out some information here. So I'm going to look for call participants. So if I go back here, if I go Control C, Control V, paste that. Where's my control participant? So I should have 1, right? That's going to be at the beginning. This is the structure. So again, what I said before, you look for patterns that you can exploit. You look for those buttons. You look for the links. You look for the dates. call participants. These will always have call participants, right? If we go to RPM over here, you're going to see the same structure. You see the same pattern over and over and over, right? You exploit that pattern. You just look for the pattern in the data, and that's how you exploit it, and that's how you automate basically any process, right? So call participants, we're looking for that. Let me hit Control Enter, and it's going to tell us who's on the call. So we have the CEO, Jennifer Hyman, and Siddharth Thakur. Sounds sounds like an Indian guy, and it sounds like maybe, who knows, British or American or something like that. I don't care. So here's the CEO and the CFO. Okay, so we have that, and the CEO is Jennifer Hyman. Okay, so we want to understand the CEO because we want to do a little bit of analysis on what the CEO is saying, and then get some sentiment or some feeling about what this CEO is talking about on the earnings call. Okay, so we're looking to strip out things like chief executive officer. We're looking for that because we just found that pattern over here. Chief executive officer literally says that, right? So we have some uppercase and lowercase letters. I don't care about the case. I'm just looking for the text. So I want chief executive officer, uppercase or lowercase, doesn't really matter. I kind of want to convert it to lowercase just so it's easier to work with. But if you have something like chief or CFO, I might want to know about that as well. I really want to focus on the CEO. That's really the head of the operation. The CFO, of course, is important too, but for this analysis, we're looking at the CEO. So again, we're looking at call participants, full conference call transcript, okay, because that's what they're calling this thing. So that's what we have to look for, these patterns in the data, right? So if I go Control F, Control V, here's the full conference call transcript. So I don't know how they do it behind the scenes, but somehow they get everything into this format. This is for Rent the Runway. If I go to RPM, Control F, Control V, same thing, right? Same pattern. We look for these patterns, we exploit the patterns, and then we can extract information from the pattern and automate the entire process, right? So let me hit Control Enter to run it. So we have the CEO, CFO names listed right there. We know the CEO is Jennifer Hyman, and we run the process right here. So looking for these patterns in data, call participants, full conference call transcript, right? That's what we're looking for. And we're going to use this analysis tool called FinBERT to do a sentiment analysis. Remember, sentiment is the feeling. Like, how do you feel when you read this transcript? How do you feel when the CEO is talking to you? How do you feel when you know, this vernacular, this jargon, this lexicon is shown to you? What's your feeling? What's your sentiment? We're doing sentiment analysis, and the aim really is to automatically extract the CEO's name, so we know who's speaking. We want to focus just on the CEO text, and then understand the message is either positive, negative, or neutral. Okay, it can be one of those three things. Can't be all three, and it has to be one of those three things. So we put this into a bucket of positives as 4 positive statements, or 4 positive kind of like sentiments that this CEO is talking about. And you can see the details here. So here's the CEO, Jennifer Hyman. Thank you for joining the call today. It sounds positive, right? She gets into some things here. In the last quarter, we've put this plan into action and see very positive results. It literally says positive right there, right? So there's no mistaking that, no question about it. Q1 inventory as received is up 24%. It sounds positive, right? Up 14%. That's positive. Neutral here. So now we have 1 neutral. We have 2 positives, 4 total, 1 neutral. So here's the neutral to the excitement that brands have to partner with us during this time, which are losing confidence. That sounds a little bit negative. Other retail channels. Okay, so they're going to Rent the Runway, right? Because this feels positive to them. About 20% of the items acquired in financial year 2019 were exclusive design and revenue shares. So somewhat neutral. Okay, I'll give them a neutral score. We've seen that this leads to 34% reduction in churn. So that's positive, right? So far, we're seeing 18% reduction in churn. So churn is, right, customers leaving, or you're walking them, right? The business is going out the door. So you're reducing that. That's positive, right? So that makes sense. And then social channels is up 163% since we launched a new strategy in April. And 2 months prior, I'm also personally still responding to customer emails and feedback that comes my way. So all positive, right? So we have 4 positives, 1 neutral. That is the overall sentiment from the CEO, from the transcript. So let's plot this right now. Control Enter to run it. So we have 4 positives, 1 neutral. That's the plot right there. So we have the CEO sentiments, and then we can actually use a different technique to tokenize or to take this language. All this is just English language. Tokenizing it means converting it into some kind of numerical representation of text so the computer can understand what that is, right? So a computer doesn't know words, it doesn't know language, it knows numbers. The computer is very good at numbers. So you have to take the words and convert that into numbers. Once we do that in chunks, because we have to do that like one chunk at a time, one and then another, and then another, and another, and understand, are these chunks positive, neutral, or negative, right? So we're using this sentiment analysis pipeline, right? This is called FinBERT, and you can Google this. I know it's a lot of information, guys. I'm just showing you my research and discovery. I'm showing you what I found out here. So if there's something you don't understand, just Google it. That's what I do. I Google these things, use ChatGPT, look for ways to do your analysis, right? And improve your analysis. That's what I'm doing here. So again, the sentiment can be positive, negative, or neutral. I'm seeing neutral here with 0.93. So that is the confidence of neutral. So it could be a little bit positive, a little bit negative, but we're 93% certain that this is a neutral sort of sentiment. So let me go ahead and print this out, Control Enter to print. So we're looking at the score, and then we want to see why is this neutral, okay? So if somebody tells me, hey, the tone is 93% neutral, I say like, okay, sounds good. But prove it. Like, how do you prove that that's 93% neutral? Like, I want to see what's causing that neutral. If you say it's positive, that's fine, prove it. If you say it's negative, prove it. I just want to see behind the scenes why you're making that assessment. So we have providing our customers with valuable offerings. Same with brands previously not been on their radar. And it sounds kind of neutral, right? As we detailed on our last call, we're planning our largest event and new investment inventory this year, and our brands and sales have already started to roll out. So sounds kind of a little bit positive, not negative, but mostly neutral. That's the score that we got. Control Enter to run this, and this is 100% neutral. So that's it. That is the Earnings Call Transcript Analyzer. Let me grab a couple more earnings calls just to showcase how this works, right? I mean, remember, we got the top 10 button clicks right here, right? So we have 10. If you want to put this up to 20, 30, 40, 50, by all means, go for it. Let's look at this first one. I think this is RPM. That's what it's called. So we go to RPM earnings call, and I'm going to copy and paste that over here. So Control C, Control V. I got very good at this, Control C, Control V in college. I mastered that. So now we're looking at different URL, right? So we're going to get different information. So we have the chairman, chief executive officer, summary, takeaways, so on and so forth. I just want to get a quick sanity check of the transcript. So now we have 152 lines, 62,000 characters. Let's look here. We're going to see who the key executives are. We're going to see CEO and CFO. Call participants is the CEO right here. So Frank Sullivan, and it looks like Frank Sullivan and Matthew, Vice President Controller is Matthew Schaubard. And then we have another CFO, Michael Roshi, Vice President. Okay. Control Enter to refresh the cell. All right, so we have a sentiment summary here of neutral. This is just neutral, so not a whole lot going on. Control Enter to refresh. This is just neutral. So the whole earnings call was basically neutral, not positive, not negative. And that's okay. It is what it is. It's just what they're talking about. Control Enter to refresh. We'll see if there's a breakdown from the neutral to positive or negative. And then let's plot the results. Okay, so we're working. We're looking at the first 800 lines here, positive score, 100%. So this is why it's positive. This will not change what has served our RPM, I guess that's the name of the business, through history, having entrepreneurial culture, and they're talking about customers and brands and products, and we're pleased with the fourth quarter results. Okay, sounds positive, right? That's how we got a positive score. Neutral, this move from segments to 3 segments. Think all those are dynamic, and we want to get it settled. So I would expect the program probably be unveiled in the spring or summer of next year. It's pretty neutral. It's not really giving me like a warm, fuzzy feeling or a cold feeling either. 1 positive, 1 neutral, plotted there, and that's exactly matching what we saw over here. So 1 positive and 1 neutral. 1 positive, 1 neutral. So let's look at one more example just to showcase how this tool works. If we go back here and get this, this is Tractor Supply. Okay, so it's the 5th link on this Motley Fool website. This is the 5th link. Oh, I think I copied and pasted that thing. So let me go back here. I think this was the master. So Tractor Supply was number 5, right? Let's see how this thing shakes out. Um, let me refresh this. That actually Tractor TSCO Tractor Supply copy website. I do that. Control C. Let me see. Now it's number 6. So I think they just posted one while I was doing the demo because I think RPM was number 1. So somebody at Motley Fool just pushed out a new earnings call transcript, and that's fine, right? These things are refreshing all the time, dynamic. That's why we're clicking the button 10 times and capturing all the most recent earnings calls, right? And again, if you want to get more, set this to 20, set 50, 100, I don't care. Keep clicking the button and you're going to get all these earnings transcripts. So I'm going to copy and paste what used to be the 4th, used to be the 5th. Sorry, I just misspoke. Used to be the 5th, now it's the 6th because they just put out a new one after RPM. That was my number 1. Now the new one that just came out a couple of minutes ago is amalgamated. That's fine, right? We're just capturing what we're given here. I'm going to put this over here. We'll see the new CFO, CEO, and so on and so forth, and the earnings call transcripts from our analysis here. So just quick sanity check to look at the first 5,000 characters. There's 58,000 characters total, 115 lines in this transcript. So let's go ahead and look for call participants. And who's on the call here? We have the CEO, Howell Lawton. And if I go over here and put this in here, we should see the same thing. Go down a little bit. Okay, so Hal Lawton, exactly what I expected. CFO is Kurt Barton. And that's what I see over here, Kurt Barton. And they have a bunch of people on this call. So this is a popular one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's actually 7 people on this call. And that's fine. We're just capturing whatever we're giving, right? It's very dynamic, very scalable, up and out. So we have the key players here, the key executives. Control Enter to refresh the sentiment. And again, we detected Cal Lawton is the CEO. The CEO speech is 22,990 characters. That's fine, fantastic. I applaud it. Applaud you for I'm going to capture whatever is there. Whatever you give me, I'm going to take that and do the analysis on that. So close this. In the meantime, I don't need that tab. And then what else? We have Cal. So doing a fetch of all the data. I get my ice water over here. Right, so we have everything. Now we have 9 positive sentiments and 1 neutral. So why is it positive? Kick off today call with a high-level overview of our second quarter. That sounds neutral so far. Turn over the Kurt later. What else? Join the share final initiatives. One of the most exciting and impactful transformations underway at Tractor Supply. So it sounds kind of positive, right? It starts off a little bit neutral. He's just setting it up. Turns positive very quick. This is positive. This is positive. We have 9 positives, right? Positive, 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 positive. And I thought I saw one that. Oh yeah, 1 neutral, 1 neutral. Okay, so we have the 5 positives, 1 neutral. Let's visualize this. Control Enter. Here's the 9, right? 9 positives, 1 neutral. Perfect. So we know exactly what this company is doing. Just in seconds, we have a whole call transcript analyzed and broken down into different sentiments, right? Positive, neutral, negative. And again, I think this stuff is a little bit biased. I mean, they're talking about a lot of positive things. I don't see any negatives over here. Here we see 2 positives, right? And what else? Positive score, 0.99. So very confident, 99% confidence level, 100% confidence level. Control Enter to see what the breakdown is. Because if you say it's positive, that's fine. Prove it. Why is it positive? If it's negative, prove it. If it's neutral, prove it. Okay, it's 99% positive. That's what we just saw. Supplemental side been made available on our website. Earnings release. Let me now reference safe harbor provisions, and looking statements are subject to significant risk and uncertainties, including future. In many cases, these risks, uncertainties are beyond our control. So it says 99% positive. It sounds like a little bit talking about risk, which is negative, but maybe they're They're alluding to the fact that they're managing the negativity of this risk. But it's 99% confident, not 100%. This sounds 100%. So capture approximately 15% rent savings. So that sounds good, right? They're saving money there, whatever it is, rent or something. Strong alignment with our long-term strategic priorities, looking ahead to the second half of 2025. We recognize the uncertainty and remains macro pressure for evolving tariffs, right? Tariffs is a big thing now. Since April, the news came out, right? We had some impact on the stock market, whatever. We're starting to feel the pain of these tariffs right now. And the positive, we have two positive sentiments, and the count was summarized right here. There's positive number 1, number 2, and you can also see the same thing over here. Positive count equals 2. So that's it, guys. So that's how you do earnings calls, transcript, analyzing those transcripts, and we've automated the entire thing, right? So if you want to go through and capture any one of these links, I can pick one in the middle. This is link 217. Control C, Control V, paste it over here. I can see who the CEO is, as well as the other key players, right? And then do the sentiment analysis on the entire call. Now we have 33 lines. This one's pretty short, so it should run pretty fast. Here's the CEO, Bruce Young. And if I go back here, we should see the same thing right over here, right? Control Enter. I don't know what this company is, but Bruce Young is the front man. So right there, CEO Bruce Young. What is this thing actually? Concrete pumping. Concrete pumping. Okay, that's a new one for me. I'll admit I haven't heard of these guys before, but whatever. So here's the sentiment analysis. We have the CEO again. We're analyzing that, looking at his message to the shareholders, right? So 7,388 characters. So this speech is a little bit lower. Concrete pumping. I mean, how much can you possibly say? I guess, right? Negative was actually 1, and positive is 2. So negative score is 1. This is positive. This is positive. We saw a lot of positives today. First negative that I'm seeing. Thank you. Good morning. In second quarter, we continue to navigate challenging construction environment. That's why it's negative, guys, right there. So it just jumps right off the page at you. I'm not going to read all of that. You can do it for yourself. So 1 negative, 2 positives, looking good. We captured everything from the call. This is the summary. So what's the tone? We're looking at the sentiment and tone. Negative 0.99, okay, and negative score. Oh, so we're getting a couple negatives now. So Control Enter to analyze this and to print out the text, right? Again, prove it. If this is negative, prove it. If it's positive, prove it. Elevated interest rate environment, that's impacting everybody, right? So I get it. I understand that. I feel the pain. 33% revenue on trailing 12 months. That's the TTM. I understand that. Control Enter to refresh. And now we have 2 negative sentiments in this analysis. I'm going to go ahead and save this right now and then export this HTML. So HTML, this is going to my downloads folder. I'm going to copy and paste that to another folder where I store all these videos and all the Jupyter notebooks I have. I'm going to export the notebook with all the code. So I'll share all this code with you guys. You have it. Copy, paste it into your own Jupyter notebook environment. Run it. Play around with it. Mess around with it. Explore the code. Fiddle around with it. And that's how you're going to learn. That's how you're going to learn this stuff, right? So I encourage you to do that. And if you break something, just go back to the original source code that I'm going to share with you now, so you can, refresh it. Go back to the source, right? So there's no real danger of breaking this, and it's broken forever. You would just copy and paste the code I'm sharing with you now, and make any updates. If you make a mistake, make an update, and then you will have full 100% working code. That's what I'm going to give to you. So I'm going to drop the code and drop the video a little bit later today. I'm going to wrap it up. We are at almost 40 minutes, 39. I just hit 39 right now. Try to keep these short. Sometimes it gets out of control and goes off the path a little bit, but I try to keep it like 30, 40 minutes. This one's right at 40. So I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks so much for sticking with it to the end. I appreciate that. I'll drop the code. I'll drop the video soon, and I'll see you guys when I put out the next video, which is going to be very soon. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you. Goodbye.